Trucker Dump, episode 134. In today's jam-packed show, we're going to be discussing the usual stuffs like truck recalls, tolls, impending new emission standards, hours of service proposals, and whether driver pay is the key to solving every problem in the trucking industry. You think? I'll also tell you where you're most likely to get a moving violation, and speaking of violations, we'll be discussing the sentence that was handed down to the pilot executives recently. Also, the tiniest of progress has been made to stop the exploitation of truck booting, so that's good. What else? Well, you should keep your eyes peeled for road ragers. They're making a change. I'll point you to a couple of articles that'll help you curb your road rage and improve your professionalism. And we'll finish up the news section by sharing a trucking charity for Christmas, and we'll find out about a possible exemption for narcoleptic truckers. What? In the Trucker Grub segment, Dustin is back to tell us where we can find some great clam chowder. And in the feedback section, Lindsay, Chris, and a whole bunch of Davids share their thoughts about everything from gross truckers to driver rules to driver pay to a book of science fiction short stories set in the trucker universe. And for today's main topic, I'll share 3 trucking apps every trucker should have. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by the Escort emergency device from Citadel Fleet Safety. Crank it up.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hello, all you trucker dumpers out there. How the heck are you? More importantly, how'd Thanksgiving go? You know, for a change of pace, I got home for like 5 days. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do with myself, quite honestly. Of course, I cried like a little girl when I got my next paycheck, but hey, what are you going to do? Anyway, for those of you new to the show, my name is Todd McCann. I'm a 21-year trucker. I'm a podcaster, obviously. I'm the author of 2 trucking books. One is called Trucking Life, and one is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. You can find information on both of those at abouttruckdriving.com. And as an update from last podcast, I have to tell you that I have gotten absolutely no better whatsoever at not calling out truckers. Oh, I try, but hey, what are you going to do? You know, when some guy is blocking the entrance to a gate to get into a shipper, he's come out, he's got all his bills and everything, he's ready to go in and pick up his load, but he's just sitting there for like 3 minutes. What are you supposed to do? Well, I naturally walked up, knocked on the door. He looks down at me like he's annoyed. And I say, hey, you got some mechanical problems or something, And he goes, no. I said, you plan on moving? He said, yeah, I'm moving here in a second. So I just walked off and I thought, why are people so mean? Why are people so rude? If I hadn't had a smile on my face, he probably would have got a lot pissier with me, but there's just no excuse for that. You're blocking a freaking gate. Don't do that. And there was no excuse for it whatsoever. Anyway, I'm hoping to get better at it, but I have figured out part of the problem. Part of the problem is that all these old timers out here, it's funny coming from somebody who's driven for 21 years, they all say that you're not a real trucker if you don't run with your CB on. Okay. I took that to heart. I was like, that's a good point. I could avoid traffic jams, stuff like that. Keep informed of what's going on around me. If there's something laying in the middle of the road, I'll find out about it. But you know what? All that's bull crap. Nobody does that anymore. I think I mentioned this before, but in the first 2 weeks I had the CB on running low in the background the whole time. I got caught in 3 traffic jams that were long time construction that had been there, I guess, for a long time. And, drivers making fun of me because I didn't know it was there. Well, isn't that what I'm listening to the CB for? Not only that, but it also just opens you up to being drawn into all the stupidity that goes on there. The people trying to call you out because they think you did something wrong. I had a guy holler at me because he thought I was tailgating. Problem is, it was a 65 mile an hour zone. No, it was a 70 mile an hour zone. I was going 64 because that's as fast as I can go. And he was going 60 in a dually. So I just said, hey, yeah, I was tailgating you there for a second because I came up on you so darn fast. I didn't realize why you were going so slow. And he had no reason. Got into a lot of name calling. Well, he called me a lot of names. He kept calling me Richard, because that's really clever. I would have never figured that one out. Anyway, I'm just not going down to that world anymore. I'm turning that sucker off. All it did was remind me why I have not turned on the CB and left it on for probably 20 years of my 21 years. It's just not worth it. Only in the bad weather, and I'll turn it on if I get in a traffic jam to find out what's going on, because clearly they aren't telling you in advance anyway, so that is defeating the purpose. And, I'll just deal with the traffic jams when I get to them. Oh, well. And if I hit something in the road, so be it. It's not worth it. Hey, before we kick it into gear and get rolling here, I want to thank every single one of you who took the time to go and fill out the Trucker Dump listener survey. Man, I really appreciate it. I was not expecting a lot out of this. Usually when I ask for help with something like this, or even a contest, which there is a contest involved with this, or Trucker Dump t-shirts on the line, usually, I get just a handful of responses. And so, feedback is low. I was very shocked. I've gotten 32 responses so far, which is far more than I ever figured I would get. So I appreciate every single one of you taking the time to do this. There's some really nice comments on there. I appreciate those. I was looking through some of the responses and stuff, and it was kind of funny because I went through here and, I like the first comment for general improvement said, "You quit being such a dork." And I was like, well, that's kind of mean. And I thought, surely they know me and they're just poking fun. And then I went and looked and saw who it was, and it was me. It's when I filled out the survey to make sure everything was working, and I put in there, you could quit being such a dork. So, but I've gotten lots of responses from the rest of you. Man, it's been great seeing what you're all about. It looks like, I'm getting some great information for potential new sponsors. Man, I can't even talk today. But I'm finding out all kinds of new stuff. Not surprised that 90% so far are male listeners. I'm not surprised that most of you are owner-operators, company drivers, about 65% so far. I was a little surprised to know that 40% of you are dry van haulers. That kind of surprised me. I figured there's a widespread here, but 40%, that's a big chunk. And two things that really made me happy was my question, how do you hear about the Trucker Dump podcast or the blog? And 65% said from within a podcast app, which I love that. I think that's great. And how do you consume the Trucker Dump podcast? 97% of you listen in a podcast app. And the rest read it. Nobody listens to it on the website, I guess, which is fine by me, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly, because I've heard that SEO can be better. Search engine optimization would be better if, people listen on the website, but, because they're there for a longer time and Google ranks how long you spend on a website. But please don't do that on my account, because, I don't think it actually makes the podcast look all that great. It just is good for the website, and the website is not my focus. The podcast is my focus. So this works out perfectly the way I was. And was very surprised to see that most of you actually love the trucker news section. That was kind of surprised. And I was even happier that most of you, pretty much, 27 out of the 32 love the main topic portion of it. So that makes me feel really good, because that's where I put the most heart and soul into. So again, thank you all for filling this out. I'm going to put a link in the show notes again, because that is still active. Again, there will be, I will do a drawing, random drawing for a free Trucker Dump t-shirt, and you'll be able to tell me what size and what kind you want and everything, and I will get that sent out to you. Not quite sure when we're going to do the drawing yet. Like I said, 32 responses is great, but I would love to get more. So if you haven't done it yet, please run on over there and get your chance to win a Trucker Dump t-shirt. And like I said a million times already, thanks to everybody who's already done it and who will do it. Hey, before we get on with the news, I want to bring your attention to a couple of older podcasts that are pretty relevant right now. You know, you might have noticed that the weather's getting kind of crappy. Well, in that case, you want to jump on back to Trucker Dump 119, Winter Truck Driving Tips from an Alaskan Truck Driver. This is the one that's chock full of winter driving tips from Kevin Lowry, who is Northern Crummy in our Slack groups. It was a really long podcast, but man, there's a lot of good information in there. So if you're an experienced trucker, go on back and just refresh yourself a little bit. If you're a brand new trucker, this is mandatory listening. Seriously, get on over and do that. Again, that was Trucker Dump 119. There'll be a link in the show notes to that. And the other thing is just something kind of fun. My friend driver Chris Mack says he makes a habit every single year at Christmas time to listen to Trucker Dump 80, which was called 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Trucker Style. I got very creative on this one, so you might want to go back and listen to this one. This one is only 5 minutes long, so it'll be over before you know it. I think it's funny that he listens to this every year as kind of a tradition, and I went back and listened to it, and I thought, hey, that's actually pretty good. It's pretty funny. So run on back and check that out. Again, that's Trucker Dump 80, and link will be in the show notes. So anyway, I'm not going to ramble on for 18 minutes like I did last show before we got started on anything. Maybe that'll make things go a little bit quicker. And that's good, because once again, it's been about a month, a little over a month since our last podcast, since we spoke last, and lots of news, of course. So let's just get right on with that. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, not that you care, but I'm recording this section of the podcast in Whitestown, Indiana at the Loves. And I'm here because I had to get a flat tire fixed. I stopped at the TA last night, 3 miles down the road, and they had a 6-hour wait. So I came here. There was a 1.5 hour wait that turned into a 2.5 hour wait because they scratched me off their list like they had already fixed my tire when they hadn't. Oh boy. Gotta love it. Anywho, let's get on with that news. Of course, first we have to start out with some recalls because, well, God, what are you going to do? I am going to just hit these real fast because, you can check out the links in the show notes. I got all these off overdriveonline.com. First, let's start with some Freightliner Cascadias. Apparently about 3,000 of them have an airbag issue where the driver's side airbag will deploy suddenly and rapidly without you expecting it. That might be a bit of a shock going down the road. Also, about 6,000 Cascadias have a problem with brake light issue. Apparently, the brake light does come on when you tap it, when you tap the brakes, but it doesn't go off right away when you take your foot off the brake. Well, that's not ideal either. There's also an issue with, Great Dane trailers. With their Champion Drive-In series trailers, there is a lack of reflective tape, so be sure to check out Great Dane. Maybe call your local dealer and see if you're up for that, or check out this article here. That'll give you all the details. Link in the show notes again. Oh, and by the way, I should mention all these show notes. You can find them within your podcast app if you're listening that way, or they are at the bottom of the blog post if you go to abouttruckdriving.com, and this is episode 133, so TD133. No, 134. TD134. Man, numbers are hard. Anyway, the third recall we got going here is for some brake issues. Hey, imagine that. It's Freightliner again. Apparently, about 5,500 Freightliner and Western Star tractors are being recalled for a brake caliper issue where they didn't quite get them tight enough. So check out the links in the show notes. All right, 2 more recalls to go. At least this time it's not Freightliner, but it is Great Dane again. About 100 of their trailers have a problem with the rear impact guards. Again, check out the link in the show notes for that. Navistar announces 21,000 internationals are affected by a transmission issue. This is the automated manual transmissions. They're the ones with certain Eaton heavy-duty truck clutches. So if you've got an Eaton heavy-duty truck clutch and you have an automated manual transmission, you might want to check that out. The link in the show notes. Again, 21,000 of them, so big number. Done with recalls. Everybody cheer! Next up is something else that'll make you grumpy, just like recalls. Hey, remember those former executives of Pilot and Flying J that got nailed for the fuel rebate scam? Well, they have been sentenced finally. And here's the thing that's a little bit grumpy. Out of all that and them stealing all this money, all they got, 2 of them got 30 months in prison. That's it. 2 of them got 30 months in prison. One of them got 20 months because apparently he was key in turning over all the information. Basically, he was the stool pigeon, I guess. Anyway, they got fined like $75,000 a piece. I think one of them got fined $100,000 a piece. But you know what? If they were executives of a huge corporation like this, I have to imagine that $100,000 is just a drop in the bucket for them. Whereas most of us, it would make us bankrupt. But anyway. Hey, speaking of Pilot Flying J, you know that the Road Rangers are changing over, right? Their Road Ranger became part of the Pilot network for a while. I don't think all their stores, just some of them. Well, that is going away. I think this transition started, December 3rd, and it will continue until January 24th of next year. So just be prepared. Sometimes you think you're going to stop in and get a shower at a Road Ranger if you have a pilot showers on your card, and that is not going to work anymore. So just be prepared for that. Make sure when you pull in, you're seeing that pilot sign, which apparently you're not going to at the Road Rangers anymore. Can't say as I'll miss them all that much. Road Rangers, never been a huge fan anyway. Too darn small. All right, next up, let's talk about driver pay a little bit. I've been seeing a lot of articles. I'll put a link to the overdriveonline.com one that spurred this on. The title of this is Better Pay Would Solve Most Critical Issues. That's according to recent rankings in a survey that they took. The gist of this is that if, there is no driver shortage, of course, we hear that all the time. There's no driver shortage, but that the carriers need to take care of their employers better and their drivers. And if they will pay them more, all these problems will be solved. Well, you know what? There is a lot to that. Pay will keep, drivers will bring new drivers in, but that is not the whole fix. I mean, there is a fundamental problem with trucking that other industries don't have. Well, most other industries. And that is the fact that you need to be away from home for a long time to make good money. I mean, if a new driver comes out here and he makes $50,000 his first year, he's kicking butt in his first year, but he's got to be on the road all the freaking time. If you tell a guy he can make 45 or 50 and he can be home every night, then yeah, we're going to attract a lot more people to this industry, aren't we? I mean, that'd be great, Yeah. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't go over the road anymore. Maybe that would be a problem in itself. But, just to say that, hey, raise driver pay and, all these problems are fixed. No, they're not. This is just part of the problem. And trucking companies are going to have to figure out how to get drivers home more often. I don't know how that happens, but they got to figure out how to start doing it. I think a lot of them have, a lot of them are offering these regional runs where you're, home on the weekend, just enough time to get a 34-hour break. And that's part of the problem too, is that in trucking, a weekend is not really a weekend. A weekend might be home for one day on a Tuesday or whenever you run out of hours on your 70, and then they want to leave you at home just long enough to get to 34 and then send you back out on the road. So anyway, that's just kind of what I wanted to point it out from this article. Check out the link in the show notes. Now, here's another article I found about money. Owner-operators drive less, earn more through the summer. Now, what I took out of this article was, I don't really care when the owner-operators are making more money during the summer, during the winter. It doesn't make a difference to me. What I drew out of this was that they said the average owner-operator nets, that's net pay after taxes and all that junk that he's got to pay, fuel and all the expenses. The average net pay was $60,000 last year, and they expect it to maybe go up to $65,000. That's great. That's more than I make. That's more than I net. But it's not so much more that I'm sure I would want to take on all that risk, of owning your own truck and having bad times, what happens if another economy crash hits like in 2008, something like that, and then you're just stuck holding the bag. Maybe that's just why I have never gone the owner-operator route and never even really been enticed about it. But anyway. All right, this next, by the way, that article is on overdriveonline.com, of course. But the next article is not from Overdrive Online. Actually, I found this one in Landline Magazine. You can subscribe to this magazine for free. I didn't know this, or else I would have done it a long time ago. And you can do so just by clicking on the link here in the show notes for this next article. And you can go up, just register. No cost whatsoever. So that's cool. Anyway, this one is just called Beware for the New Tax Laws. And this just kind of goes over some guidelines. We were talking on the last podcast about the tax change that came about where company drivers don't get to claim the standard meal exemption anymore. We don't get to do the deductions, like $66 per day or whatever it is. We don't get to do that anymore. And that shocked me. So if you've got further questions about that, you can click on this link. Become a member of the and get the newsletter from them. Well, it's not really a newsletter. I guess it's the online magazine, basically a monthly magazine. So anyway, check that out. Or don't if you don't want to give anybody else your email address. I get the digital version. It's pretty nice. And I just started doing that again. I wish I had known about this earlier. I would have had some more news sources. Of course, probably the last thing I need is more news sources, right? I know that's what some of you are thinking out there right now. All right, what's next? Speaking of things that are confusing, how about those new personal conveyance rules that were issued a while back? Man, there has been a lot of confusion over, what you can and can't do. Well, the FMCSA has issued a little article here. They've some guidelines, kind of some scenarios. This was actually a topic in the Trucker Dump Slack group recently. One of the guys was trying to get home and he was having some trouble and he was wondering exactly what constituted as PC time. And there was a lot of confusion in our group, I can tell you. So this article from overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes, actually explains a few more things. And it's just the idea of this article is just to kind of round it out, kind of give you a little bit more of what exactly qualifies and what doesn't. Because man, this is some vague stuff. It really is. I kind of get it now why my company has chosen to just ignore these new rules and just stick with what they know. Because there's so much vagueness in this, and it leaves it up to the discretion of the police officer so often. And well, that's not always a good thing, is it? All right. Anyway, next up, we've got the hours of service proposal could come by the end of March. How cool is that? The new FMCSA guy, Brain Martinez, he said that he really wanted to get in here and get this thing taken care of. And from what they're saying, it might be coming by the end of March. Not the new rules, but the new rule proposals. So, then it'll have to go through all the rigmarole that it goes through to get process. But you know what? This process has gone a lot faster than the last rules changes we've had. I mean, both of the ones that I took part in throughout the years and witnessed, I mean, those things took forever. Oh, I hope you get that reference. If you don't, you live a sad, sad, sad life. The Sandlot. Hey, how about some good news next? Found this on overdriveonline.com, and this article is stating that new CVSA policy stresses that inspectors shouldn't interrupt off-duty drivers for random inspection. It's about freaking time, right? I know that's what some of you are thinking. Well, that's what I thought. As soon as I read that headline, I was like, oh, well, duh, of course. Anyway, CVSA, for those of you who don't know, is a Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. And they, keep in mind, this is a guideline. This is not a law. They wanted to make sure they said that. These are just guidelines trying to create a uniform inspection policy. That's all it is. So they can still, it's up to the officer's discretion, of course, like always. Like, they can nail you still. They can come up and spot check you if you're parked illegally and ask you to move and stuff like that. But the idea of this rule, this policy, whatever it is that, they want to quit waking up drivers in the middle of their sleep. Well, thank God for that, because that's about time. That's just uncool. And this even extends to off-duty drivers in the sleeper berth in the team operation. And boy, as soon as I read that, I was like, ooh, that would have been nice way back years ago when the evil overlord and I were trucking together. And I was on a back road in Georgia, and I still don't remember what I did. I don't think I did anything, which is kind of why the whole situation escalated. I was pulled over, and the cop, stepped up on the step, and he wanted to look in the bunk. And I said, well, my wife's back there. You're going to have to give me a second. She's asleep. And he said, no, I want to see now. And he was really insistent. Like, I don't know what he thought. Like, maybe, there was some illegal immigrant back there who was getting ready to pull a gun and, reach out there and shoot him in the face with it or something. I honestly don't know what he was thinking. Personally, she and I decided later on that he was probably just a perv that was hoping to catch a look at something, because I kept warning him. I said, don't go back there. And he was getting very insistent with me. I said, just give her a second. And he wouldn't listen. He got in the truck and he opened up the curtains, and thankfully the evil overlord had heard what was going on, and she had time to sit up and cover herself. I was sleeping a bit naked at that time. But she sat up, and he stuck his face in through there, and boy, did he get laid into. I mean, she didn't hit him or anything, but she might as well have, because she screamed at him and called him every name in the book. I was just sitting there kind of like in shock that she was doing it, but he stuck his head back out of there, and he got out of that truck pretty quick. And I honestly can't remember if I got a ticket over that, but he did not give me any more grief after that. But the whole point of the matter is he was implying that it was for his safety reasons that he wanted to do that. Well, I'm sorry. You don't stick your face back through a curtain if you're worried about safety. Now, do you? No. You would stand back and you would pull the curtains apart quickly, maybe. But you're not going to stick your face back through, and only your face, right? I wish she'd have punched him in the face. Anyway... This is good. Basically, this story says this is good. They won't be able to wake up team drivers anymore. So good for that. They won't be able to wake you up if you're parked legally also. Which I wonder if this extends to way stations. I think it must. I think a lot of us, we try to avoid the way stations because in the morning, there's a good chance that the inspectors will be out there just spot checking you. And that is kind of uncool. Honestly, I don't know. Once you get out and start doing your pre-trip, I guess there's no guideline saying they can't approach you at that juncture and give you an inspection. But at least they can't wake you up in the middle of the night anymore to do one. So that's good. Great news. We need more positive changes like this in this crappy trucking industry. And you know what? Speaking of crappy things to do, booting. You know what the booting thing is. It's happening a lot. It's happening in a lot of retail spaces, but it's mostly happening at Walmart, it seems like. And these are companies who come in and they put a boot on your car tire, or not your car tire, your truck tire, or some of them go across the windshield, and then they demand these exorbitant rates for you to unlock it. And the thing is, they don't give you any advance warning. They don't tell you can leave or you're going to get booted. They wait until you're gone. Like you might be running into Walmart for, 30 minutes to go shopping, and, they're out there and they're just waiting on you and they nail you. And there's nothing we could really do about it except for pay and to move on. I mean, some of these fines were like $600 to remove the boot. Just ridiculous. Basically extortion is what it is. Well, there's a county in Georgia. I just bashed Georgia because of that cop, but there's a DeKalb County in Georgia has made a new rule that you can't do this anymore. Well, you can But here's the new law that went into effect. It's gone into effect already. It says the boot removal must cost no more than $150, and it must occur no more than 1 hour after the payment is received. Because I guess part of the problem is, the truckers are willing to pay it, but it took forever for them to even get back to the truck to unlock them. So truckers are just sitting around losing money. So now they have to get back there and do it within 1 hour. And that's great. There is another stipulation that the vehicle must be improperly parked for at least 20 minutes before it can be booted, and photographic proof must be provided. So that's nice too. And they're making any company employee who is booting these things, they have to wear a body camera so they can actually see what happened during the incident. Because I guess there's a lot of things going on between truckers and these people, understandably, because the truckers are pissed about it, and these people are pieces of crap. So I'm sure there was some things that were going on that needed to, would have been nice to know what actually happened. Anyway, one thing it said in this article here, again, I found this on truckersreport.com, link in the show notes. The final paragraph here says, the vote passed after a 3-3 tie was broken by the DeKalb CEO. And I thought, 3-3, that's just not cool. I mean, what's wrong with those 3 people who voted against this? But then the next line says, all of the dissenting commissioners voted no because they believed that the law didn't go far enough. They supported banning booting entirely, which was great. That really made me feel good about this after that was all said and done. It did say that a ban was discussed early on, but the booting industry and the business groups lobbied for regulation instead. Of course they did. I don't know. I hear Walmart doesn't like this practice as much, but they're kind of being forced into it because the cities are enforcing it because of zoning rules for, asphalt and quality of asphalt and stuff like that. And trucks aren't actually supposed to be out there. So anyway, if you're going to look for a Walmart parking lot, boy, just make sure you find one with actual truck parking, because man, they're really cracking down on this stuff. It's really made me nervous lately. Usually when I go into Walmart, I can be out of there in about 30 or 45 minutes, but, 20 minutes isn't enough like this article says. But again, this is only in DeKalb County, but hopefully this will start the process where other counties will start doing this also and stop this robbery, basically. Truckers, we get screwed enough as is. The last thing we need is somebody extorting money out of us. Ugh, makes me mad. Well, of course, news is going along again, so let's jump in here with the sponsor break, and we'll be back in just a second to continue with the news. All right, show of hands. Who all has gone over to citadelfleet.com and checked out the Escort mobile device? Be honest, have you? Well, if you haven't, you should. Let's hear how Tiffany describes the Escort emergency mobile device.
It's basically like what I call the falling and you can't get up, okay? I have reported a couple incidents and accidents on here with this. I wear it around my neck, push the button, they call back. You can hear it. Hey, is this a test, or you're in distress? Is this for you? Are you reporting this for you or someone else? And it has GPS location on it. So if you can't respond, they're calling right back. You know what I mean? And if you can't respond, they can tell you your pinpoint location down to the mile marker.
That's Tiffany Hanna, Prime driver and happy Citadel customer. And why wouldn't she be? With the Citadel emergency device, all she has to do is hold the button down for just a couple of seconds, and she's going to be connected to somebody who's going to give her some help right away. They have 3 call centers located strategically around the country, so in case any natural disaster happens, like a hurricane or whatever, somebody's always going to be there on the other end of the line. And hey, don't worry about it if you're not tech savvy. This thing is super easy to use. Just take it out of the box, hang it around your neck, put it on your wrist on the strap, or hang it on your little keychain, and it's always there for you. It works immediately. No brains required. The Escort really is a peace of mind device. So hey, if you haven't gone over to citadelfleet.com yet to check out those videos, go do that right now. If you've got questions, you can call them at 800-269-5905. And hey, don't forget that Trucker Dump listeners get a special discount. Normally, the device sells for $29 per month, but you get a discount of $22 per month. Awesome! You can claim that discount by going to citadelfleet.com, click on the customer login button in the upper right-hand corner, click on the Trucker Dump logo, and use the password TruckerDump, all one word, all lowercase. So, Tiffany, you got any final words about the Citadel Escort emergency device?
It's the best thing since sliced bread. It really is.
I couldn't have put it more eloquently myself. Again, that website is citadelfleet.com, or you can give them a call at 800-269-5905. Thanks to Citadel Fleet Safety for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Alright, we back. Let's see if we can get these next three popped out really fast. There's more, but these three I think will go pretty quick. OverdriveOnline.com is where I found this, the 15th toughest states when it comes to moving violations. So pay attention so you don't get stopped in one of these, so you can slow down a little bit in these states. Number 1 is Delaware. Then we got Indiana, Oklahoma, Louisiana, West Virginia, North Dakota. North Dakota, good God, isn't it like 75 degree or 75 miles per hour out there? Whew. Anyway, number 7 is Illinois, Idaho, Vermont, Michigan, Nebraska, Massachusetts, New Mexico, Minnesota, and Ohio. You know, God, New Mexico is another one of those that's like 70 or 75. What are you guys doing out there? Man, that's fast if you're speeding in that state. Anyway, check out the link in the show notes for that. Next up is a couple of toll stories. Of course, there's always tolls. There's always propositions for tolls. Well, Connecticut's next on the list. They're saying truck-only tolls proposed in Connecticut for all of Connecticut major interstates. Supposed to bring in like $1 billion, something like that. And, oh, that's just not good. That's the last thing we need. I don't spend a lot of time in Connecticut, but I'll want to spend even less time if they impose tolls. Not that it matters. My company pays for most of those. Although, honestly, my company routes around a lot of times if it's bad, which the next story will explain perfectly. Anyway, this Connecticut thing is on the truckersreport.com, link in the show notes. And the next toll thing is the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission approves toll increase for 11th consecutive year in a row. Found this on Landline magazine. Again, you need a subscription to read this article, or you can just listen to what I got to say. Basically, it's issuing another raise, 6%, for all the sections of all Pennsylvania tolls. And my last figuring, I had heard that the Pennsylvania Turnpike, if you got on at Ohio and got off in Delaware, Pennsylvania, Jersey. What am I talking about? It's a Pennsylvania Turnpike. Of course it runs through Pennsylvania. No, New Jersey. If you go that whole way, it was like $132. That's last I heard. Well, I got on to the Pennsylvania toll calculator online and figured it up. And holy smokes, it says if you get on at Ohio and you get off at New Jersey, which is on 276, I think. So if you're running straight down, 76, it is $283 cash. And it's a little bit cheaper if you have the Easy Pass. It's $203. Now, this is for 356 miles. If you do the math, that averages out to 80 cents per mile of a toll, which is a tax. Make no mistake about it. It's a tax. So 80 cents per mile if you're paying cash, or 57 cents per mile if you're using the Easy Pass. Man, what a freaking jip. And that makes me totally understand why my company routes around the Pennsylvania Turnpike unless the shipper or the receiver is willing to pay that cost. We can't always route around all of it. But what they try to do is get off on 68 heading south into West Virginia, and then, or not 68, 79. And then they'll take 68 across West Virginia and Maryland over to 81 and cut back up that way. Anyway, it saves them some money, I guess. It sucks for us. But it is what it is, and I kind of understand why they do it now that I know how much this costs. Good Lord. Was I that far out of commission that I had no idea that the rates had jumped from $132 for a truck all the way up to $283? Holy smokes. What a jip. Wow. Anyway, let's get on to some more things that suck. TruckersReport.com says EPA truck emission standards to be tightened. Oh boy, just what we need. Jeez Louise. Man, the EPA is the biggest problem with these engines and these trucks today. There is no doubt about it in my mind. Rarely have I been in for a air conditioner I had a little heater problem recently that, of course, it happens, but the vast majority of my problems are dealing with DEF and these emissions issues. So, just what we need. Anyway, they want to, let's see, they say the emissions, the NOx emissions, haven't changed in almost 20 years. Is that true? Seems like to me they've gotten stricter over the years, but I don't know, maybe not. Anyway, NOx of nitrogen oxide is what that actually stands for. Now, they have not said how bad this is going to be, but, it is what it is. If they say it's coming, it's coming. So just be aware for less reliable trucks in the future. Yay, boy. God, I'm full of good news today, aren't I? Almost done with the news. Hey, if you are a road rage person or you're just stressed out on the road all the time, check out this article on overdriveonline.com called What We Can Do About the Physical and Emotional Violence of Chronic Stress Made Manifest. Just check it out. I'm not going to get on to you if you have road rage because you'll probably come after me next, mow me over, and I don't want that to happen. So just go check out this article. Link in the show notes, of course. Hey, this next story is driver related. This one was posted by Chris, who goes by Gravy in the Trucker Dump Slack group. He was posted this article over there. I found it very interesting. It's called Choose Professionalism to Define and Create Your Value. This one's by Clifford Peterson. I think we mentioned him before. He's written some other good articles over there on overdriveonline.com. Anyway, and this one's all about being a professional and the value that you present to your company. And it's really, as Gravy pointed out, it really is a read that pretty much I think every driver needs to read and understand, and especially new drivers. It's just get this through your thick skull in the beginning, and maybe you'll understand your value a little bit more, and maybe you will make your value more for your company, or even for your own company, depending on, whether you work for yourself. Anyway, check this out. Link in the show notes. Hey, here is a fun little story. I don't know if it's fun. No, it's not fun at all, but it's interesting. There's a lot of talk nowadays about truckers shutting down, truckers striking, truckers doing something to raise awareness. Like last episode we talked about the truckers stopping traffic in DC, things like that. Well, there was something that kind of worked, and it happened back in '88. This article I found in Landline magazine again. It's called The Great Indiana Trucker Boycott of 1988. Here's the thing. They didn't say shut down or anything like that, like shut down the highways or anything like that. They just said to quit spending money. And this campaign was kind of started by the Trucking Bozo, and he got behind it and got a lot of truckers used to listen to that show back in the day. And he just told people quit spending money. And I guess it was costing in the state of Indiana millions of dollars. And it effectively worked, so to speak. Part of it was over them reducing the speed limit to 55 mile an hour and charging more for tolls. And they did end up raising the speed limit back up to 60. And of course, now it's 65 again for truckers most of the time, I think. Isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Speed limits hardly mean anything when you drive a 64 mile an hour truck. It's hard to even pay attention to them anymore. Anyway, this was a very interesting read, just on the way this worked. And maybe we could do something, I don't know how this would work as far as like our hours of service rules, but states like Connecticut, if they decide to go tolls, well, just quit hauling freight into there, or if you're there, don't spend money while you're there. You're already paying enough in taxes of the stupid toll if they implement it, right? In Pennsylvania, quit spending your money there. Jeez. I'm no trucking bozo, so I'm not going to get this going nationwide like it was, but it would be nice if somebody could do that. All right, a couple more stories. These are both great. Well, I have to admit, I laughed at this one. I've read the article and I laughed immediately. I just couldn't help it. Narcoleptic trucker seeks exemption to get behind the wheel. What? For those of you who don't know, narcolepsy, not only is it a great song by Third Eye Blind, but it's also a disorder where you fall asleep during the middle of the day for no apparent reason. Well, I read this article and I do get it a bit more now that I read it. This, by the way, came from GoBuyTruckNews.com. Check out the link in the show notes. Anyway, apparently a guy named Terry Kurtner, he's from Illinois, has filed an exemption so he can be allowed to drive interstate commerce with his, even with narcolepsy. And I guess the thing is he's on some form of medication that's a standard. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Nuvigil, something like that. He just takes a little bit of it every day, and he has not had any attacks or anything like that in over 20 years. So, okay, I quit laughing at this point. I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a point to this. It is really not going to do good for our industry, though, if the public starts hearing about truck drivers who have narcolepsy who are driving trucks. Even if you're medicated for it and you haven't had an attack in 20 years, the public is probably not going to like that. Just like me, they're going to go, what the, it's not going to make any sense. But anyway, if you look at it, it kind of does make sense because like diabetes, if you don't have that in control, you can pass out from that too. And there are exemptions for diabetes. So I don't know. Maybe I'm glad I'm not a rule maker when it comes to this. That's all I got to say about that one. But anyway, best of luck to Terry Kurtner. And I hope he doesn't fall asleep at the wheel if he gets his wish. Anyway, last story. Let's have a good fun one, right? You like dealing with fun stuff? Good stuff that makes you feel good. I'm sure most of you had heard of an organization called Truckers Final Mile. If you haven't, it's a really cool charity. It's nonprofit. And the goal of it is to help return truck drivers to their families in the event of a death. That is really an issue that is not in a lot of other industries, but a lot of truck drivers are not in shape. A lot of truck drivers have heart attacks, strokes out here on the road, and they're found 2 or 3 days later in their truck after the company can't get a hold of them and can't reach them in any way. And this is just a really cool charity. I'm going to have them on the show sometime to talk about it. I've been wanting to do that for quite a while, and I am going to do that. Putting it on a list right now. Anyway, they have another thing for Christmas that is called Sleigh Bells and Santa. And what they do is they collect donations and they help the children of these lost parents. If they've had an active commercial driver's license within that year, and the parent dies, and they can take some of this money and give some good Christmas gifts to the family, to the kids. Once again, it's just another great cause. So kudos to them. And let's see, how can you contribute to this? Let's see. It is probably the easiest way is just to give a cash donation. That's acceptable through PayPal. You can go to truckersfinalmile.org. Link in the show notes, of course. And or you can mail gifts in, unwrapped gifts, so they can see what they are, so they can figure out what kind of child would like them, Kids, little girl might not be interested in a Tonka truck. So, I think really the best thing to do here is cash donations if you're interested in doing this. Again, link in the show notes. Check this out. And make sure you submit by December 21st if you go through the website. All right. Well, the news is finally over. I show 45 minutes. Of course, this is the unedited version, but wowza, of course, again. One of my friends, driver Chris Mack, I asked him how I liked the last podcast and said the news went a bit long, but other than that, it was great. So if you think the news is going a bit long, write in and tell me. My email address is truckerdump@gmail.com. You can reach me through Twitter. I'm at Todd McCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. You can always leave comments at abouttruckdriving.com if you want. There's a contact form there. Or you can join the Facebook group. Just search for Trucker Dump Podcast on Facebook. Link in the show notes, of course. There's a link to all this stuff at the bottom of the show notes in either your podcast app or on the blog post. And, of course, I mentioned the Trucker Dump Slack group earlier. We've got some new members in there. It was quite nice to see some new people joining. Let's see. Ray, Travis, Trinidad, and Joseph all joined the Trucker Dump Slack group. And Travis and Trinidad also joined the iTruckers, which is the Mac group, well, not Mac anymore. Most people are just iPhone people. But people who love their Apple products and just a bunch of truckers who get in there and talk about it. My friend, longtime friend who I met in person, Alan, just joined that group also. So that's great. If you want to join the iTruckers group, just email theiTruckers@gmail.com. That's THEITRUCKERS@gmail.com. We'll get an invitation in the mail to you. Basically, Slack is just a glorified chat app where we can all get in there, and there's not any jerks in there. It's really nice, considering when you go on Facebook and Twitter, that's all you see. Also, it is a political free zone, so we keep all that crap out of there because, again, there's just already enough of that on Facebook and Twitter. So if you're interested in joining that group, the Trucker Dump Slack group is truckerdump@gmail.com, and I'll get you an invitation right out. And welcome to the new guys. And I say guys because it's all we got. Renee used to be a part of it. She vanished. Don't know where she's at. Last I heard she was okay, but not in the Trucker Dump Slack group anymore. If you want to be the first lady in there, that's fine. We don't talk crude or anything like that, so jump right in. And of course, if you're driving, all of that went clean over your head. So just go to abouttruckdriving.com for everything I do, including the books. Check that out.
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
Yeah, it's trucker grub time. Who wants some seafood? Well, Dustin Socher does. I know that because he's the one who sent in today's trucker grub. Have at it, Dustin.
All right. Well, it's time for another trucker grub. This is Dustin, and I am in Kittery, Maine right now. I guess I'm saying that correctly, but just across the border in Maine, right off I-95. And I stayed at the Irving Circle K right in Kittery. It's a nice, spacious truck stop, quite a bit of parking. You can actually get a decent spot a little bit later up here, and nice facilities, nice showers. So really nice place. So 1.2 miles down the road is a place called Bob's Clam Hut, and there's other restaurants and other things around there. There's like even a little shopping area too. Well, Bob's Clam Hut is like a local staple here in Kittery, and it's been there since, I think, if I remember correctly, on the wall it said like 1956. So I mean, it is a legit staple of food locally. I unhooked from my trailer, bobtailed down there, and parked right across the street. It was a little bit later, probably about 6 p.m. And some of the shops had already closed down, so getting my bobtail in there was pretty easy. I don't know if you'd want to chance it trying to get a trailer somewhere in there. You'd probably have too much trouble trying to find a legit place to park. But I recommend bobtailing down there. Or if you're feeling froggy, you can do the 25-minute walk or so. Or if you want to get a good run in, if you haven't had any exercise lately, you can get a good run in and get down there and pig
That's
out
funny.
and run back, run all those calories off. So it's literally 1.2 miles. I ended up having the lobster roll and the fresh clam chowder, fresh lobster too, and it was just phenomenal. I live on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, so I'm used to Gulf seafood, And so this was a little different for me. And it was nice to get some fresh lobster and even fresh clam chowder and right in Maine, where else to get the freshness of it. I also got a to-go order of clam cakes, and then the nice lady there threw in some whole belly fried clam, which I'd never had. And those were really good too. I hear that's a huge New Englander staple up this way. So I just want to recommend again, Bob's Clam Shack. It's worth getting in your, in your truck and unhooking from the trailer if you can. And the place is even friendly to let you, the truck stop that is friendly enough to let you unhook it. You just gotta write down your phone number and let them take a photocopy of your driver's license, give them the trailer number, in case they got to get in touch with you, but they're totally cool with you dropping your trailer for a bit to run, get something to eat and come back. So definitely check it out. I encourage all of you out there to get out and see something, man. Don't stay up in the truck stop if you don't have to, like for the hours on end. You may be tired, you may want to get some rest, and get your rest. But ladies and gentlemen, if you can go see something, if you can try some local food, man, do it. Make the most of it while you're out here on this road. So, hope y'all, if you make a load up this way towards Maine, again, it's a great place. That's the Irving Kittery truck stop in, right across the New Hampshire, Maine state line, and it's Bob's Clam Shack. Bob's Clam Shack. All right. Well, y'all stay safe out there on the road and keep America moving.
All right. Well, Dustin, you actually had it right the first time around. You said Bob's Clam Hut, and that was correct. Right there at the end, you said Bob's Clam Shack. Either way, link is in the show notes. If you want to check out this place next time you're in Maine, go have you some yummy seafood. Now, me personally, I'm not much of a lobster guy. Never have been. I don't know why. I'm just boring. But you can see why I need help with these trucker grubs because, well, my tastes are simple. I don't know, just the way I treat food in general. I like it. I enjoy it, but I don't live for it. So, it just is here to keep me alive. So if I eat canned soup or frozen dinners every night, whatever. But anyway, this does look great. I went to the website, link in the show notes, and man, this food does look good. I will say that. But me getting out and walking a mile and a half, yeah, that's funny. Anyway, if you've got a good place to eat and you want to tell us about it, write in truckerdump@gmail.com. Please put trucker grub in the subject line. Appreciate that. And thank you, Dustin, for yet another good one. All right, let's get on with the main topic. As I mentioned before, I've been trying to kick out these podcasts around the beginning of each month, and I have failed miserably. Well, probably partially due to the holidays. December 1st rolled around this year, and I had no clue, honestly, what I was even going to write about. I didn't have a clue. I mean, I have a long list, but nothing was really piquing my interest. But then I remembered that I've been wanting to tell you about these things for quite a while, and I just kind of shoehorned it into a Christmas podcast. So here you go. Without further ado, I give you 3 free trucking apps every trucker should have for Christmas. Of course, I'm not going to add that in because that's bad for SEO. I'd like to give every trucker a Christmas present this year. But since I'm financially tighter than a pair of yoga pants on a 300-pound trucker, I'm going to have to get creative here. So with that, I'm going to show you 3 free trucking apps that will make your life easier and more stress-free if you'll just give them a try. For those of you still rocking flip phones, these app things you keep hearing about are these helpful little programs that run on this thing called a smartphone. Even the cheapest smartphone can run all these apps, so it's not like you have to go out and sell all your kids' toys to afford the new iPhone or anything like that. Now, don't be fooled by the name. You don't have to be smart to use a smartphone. I'm pointing at myself here. But if you aren't using one yet, well, perhaps that could be an indication of your intelligence level, or at least your unwillingness to take advantage of today's helpful technology. So let's get on with it. 3 free trucking apps every trucker should have. First, the Weigh My Truck app is an app that lets you weigh your load without ever having to exit the cab. No more rolling down the window to have an annoying intercom screaming match between you and the cashier inside. No more will you need to search for a place to park after you're done scaling. Even better, you'll never have to be the butt-faced trucker who blocks the scale while you casually stroll into the store for your scale ticket. Here's the way the app works. First, you pull onto the scale, fire up the app. If you've given the app permission to use your location, which you can usually find in your GPS settings somewhere, it'll usually show you which scale you're at. That's the truck stop and the address. It's surprisingly accurate, but if for some reason it doesn't recognize where you are, like if you didn't give the phone permission to know where you're at, it'll ask you for the location code number, which is always posted somewhere on the big sign near the intercom buttons. Just enter the code and tap accept. By the way, there's a lot of photos in this blog post, so head on over to abouttruckdriving.com. TD134 is the number of this post. Link in the show notes, of course. The next thing you do is you enter your truck number and your trailer number. Now, the app will save both of these numbers, so it's great if you don't ever change trailer numbers. If you do change trailers quite often, you'll need to enter the new trailer number each time you scale. That's not a big problem. Once you're done with that, tap the accept button. Third, you enter your load number and tap accept. Now, depending on how you or your employer has set up the app, there may be additional information needed here. But honestly, I think that's all that's needed to use this app. Now, after that, if this is your first way, just tap the button. One cool feature is that the app knows if you've already scaled there recently, so it'll ask you if it's a first way or a reway, just like the cashier would. Tap the appropriate button and move on to the next step, which is approve the fee. Just tap the accept button if you approve the $11.50 fee. At least that's what it is at the time of this recording. They tend to jack up about 50 cents every year or so. I don't know why, but they do. Inflation, I guess. Funny how driver pay doesn't go up, but everything else does. Anyway, this fee will change depending on which button you tap. So, for instance, if you tap the first way button, it'll charge you $11.50. If you tap the reway button the next time through, it will only charge you $2. At this point, the Weigh My Truck app then connects to the Weighmaster inside, which is a fancy name for the cashier. Usually within a few seconds, depending on how busy the cashier is, obviously, a new screen will show your axle weight. Now, if everything looks legal, just tap done and you're done. Within a few minutes, you'll receive an email with a PDF image of the actual scale ticket. If you need to adjust your tandems, do so and drive back onto the scale and repeat the process. Again, the app will recognize it's a reweigh and charge you accordingly. That's it. You're done. You can drive off without ever going in. Now, sometimes I add an additional step or two depending on the situation. For instance, I usually take a screenshot of the axle weights before I tap done. My memory sucks, so it's always easier to access it in my Photos app than to dig into my email. Now, for you non-smartphone users, you can take a screenshot usually by pressing a couple of physical buttons simultaneously on the phone. For instance, like the volume up and the sleep wake button or something like that. Tap them at the same time and it'll take a screenshot of whatever on your screen at the moment. It's a really handy feature. The other thing I'll do sometimes is actually walk inside the truck stop to get the real scale ticket. Now, since doing this totally defeats the purpose of the app in my opinion, I only do this when another driver is going to make the final delivery and I want to leave a copy for him or her. Hey, on a side note, if you're one of those drivers who drop a heavy load for another driver without leaving a scale ticket, let's just say the rest of us hope a vulture craps on your head the next time you're doing your pre-trip. Better yet, when you're looking up at an airplane with your mouth open. You know, when I talk about all these steps like that in order, it sounds like this process would take forever. In reality, it usually takes less than 1 minute from the time you fire up the app. And the best thing is, you never have to get out of the truck. I mean, literally, I will pull onto the scale and I will usually go to the off-duty line while I'm doing the app at the same time. And usually by the time I've gone to the off-duty line, I've already got the scale done and I'm already pulling out again. I don't even know why I bother anymore. Anyway, think about this app. Let's say you got a heavy load and you need to fuel. But first you need to weigh your load so you know how much fuel you can add, right? You got to remain legal after all. Without the Weigh My Truck app, you scale the load, go park. Hopefully you go park. You do go park, right? You walk inside, wait in line, pay for the ticket, walk back out to the truck, and then go fuel. Or worse, you have to adjust your weights so you do this 2 or 3 more times before you can fuel. Or you can do this all with the Weigh My Truck app without ever having to wait in line at the register. The only time you have to get out of the truck is to pull the pin to slide your tandems. Seriously, folks, this one is a no-brainer. The only reason I can think to not use the Weigh My Truck app is if you're working on a cash basis. This is the main reason I wasn't using it for so long. People used to tell me about it, but it just didn't work for me. That's because I work off cash out here, so the evil overlord doesn't have to worry about my money situation. She never has to worry, about taking the account all the way down to pay a bill or something. So, if I need to get a scale or a toll or whatever, she doesn't have to worry about it. So anyway, since the app needs to be connected to a charge or a debit card, that just didn't work for me. Now, you can tie lots of different cards to it. There's a link in the show notes that'll take you to the CAT website. But the ultimate scenario is when your employer sets it up. That's what I'm dealing with now, and I can tell you that it's great to know I can scale anytime I need to without having to worry about getting reimbursed. All charges go directly to them, and that also means I don't have to keep as much cash on hand. Now, I'm guessing if you're an owner-operator or a leaser, you're probably using some kind of charge or debit card for these types of transactions anyway, right? Well, just hook it up to the Weigh My Truck app, make your life easier. Now, there is one thing, and really only one thing, that really bugs me about this app, and that's the horrible use of screen space. I guess they must have forgotten that many truckers are getting older, so we have worse eyes. As you can see from the screenshots, link in the show notes, they've got all this unused yellow space and these tiny little text fields. I don't understand it. With that much unused space, I feel like it's just insane that I have to put on my reading glasses to use the stupid app. But for the record, I've reported this issue to CAT, and they said they told the app developers about it. We'll see. That was quite a long time ago, and nothing's changed yet. I swear, nobody listens to me. Listen, if you ever use CAT scales, pretty pleased with sugar plums on top, download the Weigh My Truck app right now. I realize it isn't quite Christmas yet, but consider it an early gift to not only yourself, but to all your fellow drivers. Let's speed up the scaling process for everyone. Oh, and always remember that a side perk is less walking for your lazy arse. Nowadays, every time I see a trucker walk into a truck stop to get their scale ticket, I'm thinking, dude, what's wrong with you? Don't you know there's an app for that? Download the app today so you aren't that guy or gal. The next awesome app is Trucker Path. Now, if you haven't heard the name Trucker Path by now, you really need to get out more. If you already use the app, then you know why it's such a great self-Christmas gift. If you haven't, well, let me explain. No, there's too much. Let me sum up. If you don't get that, link in the show notes. Trucker Path does a lot of things. It shows you on a map where all the things relevant to truckers are. Truck stops, rest areas, weigh stations, CAT scales, where you can use your Weigh My Truck app, Walmart, truck washes, repair shops, hotels, truck dealers, etc. You can turn off anything you don't want to see, which is handy if you don't need a hotel or a repair shop very often. But if you ever do, just a couple of taps turns those features back on so you can see where all those hotels are. Again, I've included a bunch of screenshots of the way the app looks and how it works. Once you pull up the map, you'll see a bunch of little pins where all these little locations are. With just a tap on that pin, you can find out more details about the stop, including phone numbers, number of parking spots, and driver reviews, just to name a few. It'll even give you driving directions to the stop by opening up your Maps app of choice. There's also a routing feature that'll show you a few different routes to choose from. Trucker Path claims, and I quote, "The truck maps were designed by truckers so you can be assured routes are truck ready." There is no turn-by-turn directions yet, but at the rate they keep updating this app, I'd be shocked if it wasn't coming down the line soon. But perhaps the coolest and most popular feature is parking availability. According to Wikipedia, Trucker Path has over 500,000 active users. This is what makes the app so special. You see, they rely on truckers to update the app's parking availability. Here's the way this works. Just like the Weigh My Truck app, Trucker Path knows where you're at if you've given them permission to access your location from within the app. When you arrive at a truck stop, you can open up the app and it immediately asks you what the parking situation is. You can choose from green for lots of spots, yellow for some spots, or red for lot is full. Bummer, man. Sorry to hear that. I took a screenshot of this screen, by the way. Link in the show notes. By the way, for you evil geniuses out there, there's no sense in trying to game the system by marking a truck stop as full just so you'll have a parking space when you get there in 3 hours. Lots of turd-flinging truck drivers used to do that until Trucker Path finally caught on, primarily because honest drivers told them it was happening. So they have changed the app, so now you have to be near a truck stop to update it. Thank God, because that was really defeating the purpose of the app for a while. Why do some truckers have to be such a-holes? Anyway, from that screen you can also see how long the last update was, which is a great feature because, well, do you really care what the parking availability says if the last time the app was updated was 24 hours ago? No. But unless you're at some obscure location, it's likely that some helpful trucker has updated the app within an hour or so. But what if they haven't? Another great feature is the view history. With this feature, you can go back and look at the parking status over the last several days. Usually you can detect some sort of pattern, such as, it looks like this truck stop has some parking available until 10 p.m. almost every night. Awesome. Again, this data is only as good as the drivers using the app. But I have to say that it's usually pretty good. It could be even better if you download this Christmas gift for yourself and start contributing towards the cause. Now, I should point out that all the features I've already mentioned are free. There are some ads, but they're pretty non-intrusive. Most of the time, there's nothing that pops up in your face and demands attention. Good thing, because I wouldn't want to have to sick that vulture on them, too. There is a pay option also if you're interested in that. A premium membership will cost you $1.99 per month. That's 33% off the regular price of $2.99. Or you can save 50% by paying $17.99 annually. Doing so not only eliminates ads, but it also gives you extra features like night mode, which is basically a black background screen, and parking prediction. I do get a lot of use out of the app, but I just don't find these extra features compelling enough to sign up for another subscription plan. But then again, I am tighter than a scuba mask. The Trucker Path app, link in the show notes, is also a portal to other paid services, such as a load board, job searches, factoring, roadside assistance, and electronic logs, if you're into that sort of thing. Again, I don't really need any of this stuff as a company driver, so the premium membership doesn't make financial sense to me. Just do yourself a favor, download the Trucker Path app right now so you can quit randomly searching 3 jam-packed truck stops every night before you finally find parking. You and your blood pressure can thank me later. For our next and final app, I'm going to suggest TransFlow Mobile Plus. You know, I'll bet even Santa uses the TransFlow Mobile Plus app. He does make a lot of deliveries, you know, and all those invoices have to be sent somewhere, right? And by the way, if I forgot to mention it, there'll be a link in the show notes to all of these apps, both Android and iPhone versions. Okay, now I'm sure most of you already know what TransFlow is. That's the kiosk in the truck stop where you go to stand in a line for the opportunity to scan all your paperwork like a Neanderthal. If you're lucky, the scanner doesn't jam up. Well, okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. That doesn't happen that often. But it does take time out of your day to walk into the truck stop to do it. Hey, there we are again. Back to that pesky walking nuisance again. Wouldn't it be far easier to just do it from the cab of your truck? Well, that's precisely what the TransFlow Mobile Plus app does. It literally takes me about 30 seconds to scan a bill of lading and send it in to get paid. Possibly a minute if I've got toll receipts or other documents to scan also. Now I can hear it now. I ain't got no room for no scanner in my truck. No, silly trucker man. It's not an actual scanning machine. It's your smartphone. Granted, the company you work for needs to be using the TransFlow network, which quite honestly, most of the big ones are since TransFlow's parent company, Pegasus Transtech, bought TripPack back in 2014. Once this is set up with your company, it's as easy as farting while you sleep. One thing really cool about the TransFlow Mobile Plus app is the trucking companies can use it as a skin, meaning they can make their own app out of it, which features specific things to their company. Just go to your app store, iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, and type in TransFlow. I think you'll be surprised how many well-known trucking companies are using it. Here's how it works. And please keep in mind your company might have it set up a bit different because they can customize it. First, you open the TransFlow Mobile Plus app. If you can't figure this one out, I give up. Put on the dunce hat, go to the stool in the corner, and play Snake on your flip phone for the rest of this podcast. Secondly, look for a way to scan. Now, it might be called Scan Documents or something similar. In my app, I can access it from under the Loads tab or under Driver Benefits. If you find it under Loads, or something similar sounding, you're in luck. That's because all your recent loads are already there, and you can easily see which loads haven't been scanned yet. For the third step, all you have to do is tap the load you want to scan. Now again, if you can't find the load you're looking for, check under Driver Benefits to find Scan Documents or the word Scan, something like that. At least that's how mine's set up. Sometimes loads won't show up in there if it's been handled by more than one driver, like in a relay situation. You might have to enter a few more details like your load number, but it's still super easy. Once you find your load, tap the scan button and it'll give you an option to take a photo. Gee, I wonder what I do next. How about take a photo of the document? For best results, place the document one at a time on a solid colored surface, preferably something dark to contrast the paper. Once you snap the picture, you can choose to use photo or retake. Next, you want to crop the photo. When this screen pops up, you'll see 4 white lines framing the document in the photo. If you need to make adjustments, just drag the lines with your fingers. Most of the time, it's spot on, but it can get confused by complex backgrounds, crumpled paper, or shadows. Once you've got it framed nicely, tap Next to move on to the next screen. By the way, I got a bunch of screenshots of this too, and if that dragging the white lines thing didn't quite make sense to you, look at the screenshot and it'll make sense immediately. Next up, make any adjustments. Now, if the photo is out of focus or it's too dark, the app's going to warn you. It's actually quite hard to screw it up though. As you can see from the screenshots, if you're looking at them, the photos I took were taken in near darkness with only the phone's camera flash for illumination, and they turned out just fine. Frankly, the most problems I've had with it is during daylight hours when there are harsh shadows across the document. Sometimes that really confuses it for some reason. Basic adjustments are contrast, like lighter and darker, or you can rotate the photo if you got it upside down or sideways or something. Next, you'll just tap Accept and you'll choose your document type. Lots of options to choose from here, like you can label a bill of lading, you can label it a CAT scale of some kind, or a cover sheet, or a lumper, or something's going to safety, or a toll, or miscellaneous, or repairs, or whatever. You can just, lots of different things to label it there. Once you've labeled it, tap Next. If you have more than one document, such as toll receipts or scale receipts, that's if you're not using the Weigh My Truck app yet, shame on you, you'll have the option to repeat the steps to take additional photos. You can even send scans of DOT physical cards, driver's license, or whatever if your company requests them. Once all your documents are scanned, tap the Next button in the upper right-hand corner. Now you're going to enter your details. My company requires my driver ID, my load or order number, and my truck number. Now, the first 2 are always pre-populated, but for whatever reason I haven't been able to figure out, my truck number needs entering each time. Weird, but whatever. Again, the details your employer wants are probably different from mine anyway. Once that stuff's entered, tap Next. From here, there's only 2 options. You can send all, it actually shows you how many pages you've scanned, or you can add more pages if you forgot something. Man, that one has saved me a lot. Forget to scan a toll receipt or something. Again, there's only 2 of them, so you should probably tap one of them. And that leads you to the final step. Within a few seconds, you'll get a 16-digit confirmation number. Now, I write this number on the back of the document along with the date that it was scanned. Keep it for however long your company requires. Done. Again, all this sounds like a pain in the butt when you write it out or say it like this, but I can literally scan 2 or 3 documents and have a confirmation number in 1 minute or less. It's that fast and oh so painless. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking it up. Again, if you don't get that reference, link in the show notes. You're pathetic. But you know, the TransFlow Mobile Plus app does more than just scan documents. If your company uses the app, it can be used for so much more. You can report OS&D, that's overage, shortage, or damaged freight, check your payroll, locate company terminals, find your truck on a map. I'm assuming that's tracking the truck, not your phone, although I haven't tested that yet. Or you can do stuff like report accidents or equipment damage to safety. But perhaps the best feature is that you can get load information and message dispatch when you're not in the truck. I love both these features. Yes, I'd love them even more if I could access them while the truck was moving, but my company has requested that to be disabled. Understandable, I guess, but I don't have to like it. And for the record, rejecting access to the GPS on my phone doesn't solve the problem. Not that I would know anything about that. So, you might ask, why are these two features so friggin' awesome? Well, when I'm at home, my truck is parked about 15 miles away at a truck stop. Before TransFlow Mobile Plus was in my life, I used to get calls from dispatching asking if I'd seen my next load coming out from the house. Don't be bugging me at home, man. Of course I haven't seen it. I'm not going to drive back to the truck every day. Nope. You know, now the load just pops up in my app and I can accept it or reject it right there. And if I do need to reject it, that probably means I need to talk to my dispatcher because they're going to wonder why. Sure, I could call, but the evil overlord is a vampire after all, so she always sleeps later than I do. No problem. I can quietly text my dispatcher from within the app while my lazy butt's still laying there in bed. And I don't wake up her, which is wonderful. All this wonderfulness works out on the road, too. How many times have you been eating in a restaurant or taking a shower when dispatch calls and asks why you're not responding to your truck's computer messages? Probably a lot. Always did to me. With the TransFlow Mobile Plus app installed on your phone, you're no longer bound to your truck like a prisoner in a chain gang. Get out and explore if you want. I'm not going to, obviously, but you might want to. If you've got notifications turned on for the app and you can see your load details, you'll be able to see that you can hang out at that cool little coffee shop for a couple more hours before you need to head back to the truck. The freedom these features in this app offers is truly amazing to me. And hey, I realize some of you don't want to be bothered when you're off duty at all. Now, if that's your shtick, simply turn off notifications in the app. Although, hey, let's be honest. You know they're going to keep bugging you until you respond. He'll keep calling me. He'll keep calling me until I come over. He'll make me feel guilty. Come on, please. Please tell me you know that. Anyway, you might as well be in the know when it comes to dispatch so you can ward off the jailbreak search. Think of all the advantages of this app. First, the freedom we just discussed. Secondly, remember all those times that you didn't get paid for a load because you ran out of driving hours before you could find a TransFlow kiosk? No more. With the TransFlow Mobile Plus app, you can have that paperwork sent off to your company within minutes. Seriously, I do it all the time. And thirdly, no more of that annoying walking into the truck stop to scan your bills. Yucky. So hey, there it is. I'm here just to spread some Christmas cheer. 3 trucking apps that'll make you as jolly as an elf. Find all 3 apps by searching in Google Play on your Android device or the App Store on iPhone or iPad. Speaking of elves and movies, I can't believe I still haven't seen Elf with Will Ferrell yet. What's wrong with me? Hey Siri, remind me to watch Elf this year before Christmas.
Okay, I'll remind you to watch Elf. When would you like to be reminded?
Tomorrow at 9 p.m.
Okay, I added Watch Elf to your reminders for tomorrow at 9 p.m.
Siri, you rock. When you're not sucking, at least.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
All right, let's kick off the feedback section with an email I got from David J. Moore. He's telling me about a book, telling us all about a book. This book is called 18 Wheels of Science Fiction, A Long Haul into the Fantastic. It says contains fictional stories set in the trucking universe and is the follow-up to the hit anthology 18 Wheels of Horror, a trailer full of trucking terrors. Man, both of those are great titles. Anyway, it features 18 different writers, all coming up with different stories. It says ranging from rogue self-driving trucks, wormhole hauls through space, cyborg drivers, and eternal loneliness of life on the road. Let me read the back cover to you. It says, an alien fuel additive shows just how fast a big rig can go. A disembodied driver wages war on self-driving trucks. A haul through time takes an unexpected turn. Reality shatters for a trucker using an experimental delivery device. Stargazing gives an overweight driver a new lease on life. And a young girl risks her life to hitch a ride out of an apocalyptic wasteland. Sounds like interesting stories. I don't read that much, but if I did, I would certainly go over to Amazon.com and check this out. There is a link in the show notes. You can get the paperback version for $14.99 if you're still into paper, old school, or if you're new-fanangled and got a smartphone or a computer, you can download the Kindle version for only $3.99. Man, that's a good deal. $3.99 for 18 short stories. So, again, check that out. It's called 18 Wheels of Science Fiction, A Long Haul into the Fantastic. Again, link in the show notes. Thanks for sending that in, David. Speaking of Davids, David White is back. That's Driver Dave of recent Trucker Grub fame. He was listening to the Thanksgiving podcast, last one, Trucker Dump 133, and he writes, hello, Todd. Wow, I nearly had to pull the truck over. I was laughing so hard with your description of poopage on the walls. Was the previous driver human or perhaps a steer with road rage? There is a driver shortage after all, he says. He goes on. Perhaps I could mention the driver who, at the Loves in Edinburgh, Texas, used the tray at the soda fountain, the tray that catches the overflows, as a personal spittoon. Really, I saw him do it. After another driver also saw it and raised the issue at the fuel desk, they went back and dumped a bucket of hot water in it. Well, I should hope so. Yuck. God, what's wrong with drivers? He says, anyway, as to the scales in Texas, yes, they do open. This was when I was talking about how I didn't see how Texas was high on the enforcement list because their scales are never open. But Dave says, yes, they do open. I've been stopped at Inez, Texas, and La Gloria, Texas, to mention a couple of times. The first time they stopped me at Inez, is it Inez? I don't know. I don't get down there much. He says, remember, this Canuck just started running down there. Great state, too, by the way. He says, I did a double take. These full-grown bears wear cowboy hats. I tried not to smile as I climbed out of the truck. So they began a level 3, I believe. Then out of the corner of my eye, I watched one turn around and spit in the concrete. At first, I thought he was losing his lunch. Then I clued in. He was chewing. Okay, I thought, I'm not crawling under the truck on that concrete. Reminds me of that Bugs Bunny cartoon. Of course it reminds you of a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Everything reminds you of a Bugs Bunny cartoon, Driver Dave. Anyway, the Bugs Bunny cartoon where the Texan with the big mustache and the huge hat is out being chauffeured in a stretch limo on his expensive estate and yells to Maverick, his chauffeur, "Hey, Maverick, stop the car. There's a hole out there that ain't a gushing oil." I vaguely remember that. He says, I believe in the same cartoon, Bugs brought in a carrot gusher. Ah, yes, of course he did. Wow, you've got a heck of a memory there, Driver Dave. Yes, those Texas troopers, they wear the big old hats still. I don't think any other state does that, do they? Drivers, tell me, is there any other states out there that still wear the big cowboy hats? I don't think so. Let me know. Anyway, thanks for telling us about this, Driver Dave. You've always got good experiences to share with us. Lindsay read or listened to Trucker Number 132. Should we call out bad truckers? Well, apparently we should because I keep doing it. Anyway, Lindsay writes, I'm not in the trucking industry, but having grown up around many who are, I find your podcast very interesting. I've been working in the fleet washing business for some time and have truly noticed the difference in quality between companies who enforce standards and others who don't. I think it's important to stay on each other's backs every once in a while. Driving can get monotonous and the rules can loosen up real quick. You have to remember you are working for the company. The company isn't working for you. This is an awesome podcast. Oh, Lindsay, we are truckers. We are independent. We no work for no one. No one tells us what to do because we are the man. Except for my company who tells me what to do when I follow orders. Anyway, no, I do agree with you. And I imagine you see this a lot since you're into fleet washing. You can just tell a lot about the company by the way they maintain their equipment. And quite honestly, like I think on the last podcast I mentioned I had to pick up a rental trailer, and man, I am reminded every time I do that how well maintained my company's equipment is. I mean, I never have a problem with the dollies, very rarely. I never have a problem pulling the tandem bar or sliding the fifth wheel. Rarely have a problem with any of that stuff. Very few maintenance issues to deal with. And boy, when I go to pick up a rental trailer or somebody else's trailer to move it or something, it's like, my God, the landing gear is so stiff. It took me forever to get the tandem bar unlocked. It was just horrible. I now realize what a lot of you drivers have to go through a lot, and I feel sorry for you. My suggestion would be find somebody who has better maintained equipment. Anyway, Lindsay, way off the subject there I was, but thanks for your email. I appreciate it. Wow, we got another David here. This one's David Ross. He writes in, he listened to Trucker Dump 133, A Trucker Gives Thanks, or he read the article. Who knows? Anyway, I'm not sure what he's referring to here, but let's see if we can make some sense of it. It says, taking an hourly employee's wages, probably the same for per mile truckers, the following is what a person's wages consist of. 1, the base pay, example, $15 an hour. 2, employer's share of the Social Security and Medicare taxes. And 3, employer's share of benefits and perks. An employee actually only gets the first item listed above, less extortion or taxes, of course. Okay. I'm having a hard time putting that in context to what we were talking about. So someone clue me in. Maybe David could write me back and share what he was talking about here. I'm sure I was talking about hourly pay at some point, and I don't know what I was saying. Imagine that. Anyway, I appreciate your email anyway, David. And next, Chris is going to go for the shortest feedback of all time, but I appreciate it anyway. He just writes, I enjoy the podcast, the stories you tell, and truck driving news. Well, thank you, Chris. I enjoy putting this out. It is a heck of a lot of work, but according to the listener survey, it sounds like you guys appreciate the time and effort I put into it. So I appreciate you guys for listening, because what's the point if no one's listening, right? Okay. All right, let's finish this up. I'd like to thank Chris, Lindsay, David, and David, otherwise known as David Cubed. Oh, with that cheesy joke, I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas a little bit early. I hope you make it home on time. I hope you are not stuck at a truck stop somewhere. And hey, a little tip from your Uncle Todd for you new drivers. Do not let anyone convince you to stay out over Christmas because there is money to be made, because there never is. Most holidays are like that. They say, hey, we've got freight to run. If you'll just stay out, they might even pay you a little bit more. Trust me, it's not worth it. Go home. The only reason it's worth it to stay out on the road is if you have no family to go to at home, which is a sad story all of itself. I'm sorry. But if that's the case, you can stay out on the road. Everybody else, go home, enjoy your family, forget about trucking for a while. All right, let's get out of here. All right, a quick reminder that everything I do can be found at abouttruckdriving.com. You'll find the podcast show notes, the main topic articles, all of my contact info, and information about both books. There's even some free resources there. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast in those podcast apps you're clearly using, please go ahead and do that now. And don't forget to go do the Trucker Dump listener survey to have a chance at winning a t-shirt. Again, there's a link in the show notes for that survey. Well, there it is, another year down the tubes. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all listening all year long. So until next time, drive safe, have a Merry Christmas, and stay out of my way. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, helps if you turn the microphone on. While you're driving along, I guess, in Freightliner Cascadias, there's about 3,000 of them affected by that. Again, check out the links for the So that's how it's going to be today. You know those Pilot Flying J executives that got nailed for fraud for fuel rebate scams? Hey, you remember those Pilot Flying J executives that got nailed for the fuel rebate? New CVSA policy stresses that inspectors within a few minutes. Why can't I say minutes? But in reality, it usually takes less than 1 minute from the tire you. But in reality, it usually takes less than 1 minute from the tire you. The tire. It's not a tire, it's a time. It'll even give you driving directions to the stop by opening it. It'll even give you driving directions to the stop by opening up your map apps of choice. Maps app. Oh. You see, they rely on truckers. To update the app's parking availability. They rely on truckers to update the apps of parking. But perhaps the best feature is that you can get load information and message dispatch